Okay, I finally got things set up here. So the follow me tool is a little weird, and sometimes it can cause a lot of problems. So it may require a little bit of experimenting with. Especially sometimes it leaves little gaps, so if you can't turn the thing into a solid, and if there's ways of repairing those little gaps, if there are too many of them. So let's see. So you don't have to have a circle, but I'm going to start with one. And let's see. Now this is. I'm not going to be giving you a lot of dimensions or anything. It's going to be more like you're doing this thing from scratch. But basically, I'm going for about a 3/4 inch radius, so that'll be an inch and a half tower. And I'm going to draw a line from the beginning of the circle up to the top like this. And don't follow along with me on this. I'd rather you watch and listen, and we'll try to get a recording up on YouTube. And in the case, you could ask for help either from us or from someone else who happened to get it working. So I drew a vertical line here as kind of a reference point. And now, if you draw, the circle is going to be the path that we use. And if you start right down here on the circle itself, you end up having problems. So you start up just a little ways. And you want to have either a red or a green line. Otherwise, well, let's see. Okay, what we need to do is we need to make a plane to build the thing on, a vertical plane. So if you do need a red line, blue line, red line again. So now we've got a plane. I'm going to get the tape measure tool just to see how high this thing is. Okay, 4.72 inches. Well, that's a bit high. I think that'll work actually. All right, so what I'm going to do is draw an outline on here. Now this is kind of like turning something on a lathe. So we're going to have a tower, and it'll have a little arm on the top that spins around. This guy will be riding around on that arm, and of course you could have more of those guys riding around on it, and spinning around, typical carnival ride. So I'm going to just make kind of a tapered type of a deal here, just to make something than a plain old vertical cylinder. And of course, you can use your imagination and do something that makes sense to you. Okay, so that's going to be the outside of the tower, and I'm going to make the tower hollow, which will make it print faster. And notice I'm trying to get this thing to go where I want it to go, and it's not going. When that happens, you want to zoom in, and then it'll let you do what you're wanting to do. And I'm going to double check. I'm going to get the tape measure tool. We don't want really thin walls on this thing. Okay, well that's 0.121 inches. An eighth of an inch is 0.125, so that's about an eighth of an inch. That's a good thickness for things that we 3D print. Okay, and you can zoom in again. There we go. Drawing lines with the tape measure tool. Okay, line tool. And the other job skill is Being able to watch someone do something and not have to ask a lot of questions, not have to write down a bunch of stuff, and be able to do it yourself. Now, my dad used to be a big computer hater, but when he retired, I gave him the big 20 computer. You hooked up your TV so he could write his autobiography, and he really took to it. But he always felt that he had to write notes when I was explaining something to him. So he'd be, it wasn't really soaking into his head, and then he'd try to read the notes afterwards, and you can't put down all the information in notes. But that was just his way of learning things. It was very time consuming, both for me and for him. So when you're on the job, someone may be helping you with something that they know that you don't know, and you don't want to take up a lot of their time. Okay, so this is the outline that we're going to spin around that axis. And notice it doesn't have to match, the circle doesn't have to be the same size as this. I'm going to erase all the stuff that we don't need now, including the axis. And I'm going to put the axis back again. It just occurred to me that we need a solid top on this so we can drill a hole through it. So I'm going to make a modification here. That's an awfully thick top. Okay, so that's kind of a weird looking thing. Now, the follow me tool is the one that's right below the push-pull tool. So I'll click that, then you click this thing that you're going to be spinning around, and then you go down here to the circle, and you spin it around. And you keep on going until it, usually it says end point or something here. Oh, no, we don't want that end point. Well, I guess you just have to kind of eyeball it, and if you're lucky, then and you eyeball it right, then it'll go all the way around. Now the neat thing is that this thing's hollow on the inside. So I'm going to erase this little disc. We don't need that anymore. I did a double click which selects both the face and the line. And one thing that I think everyone should have tattooed on the back of your hand, I guess I mentioned this before, is make things a solid before you draw the next thing. So, and people have been getting into trouble because they don't have that tattoo on the back of their hand. So I'm going to do a triple click and right click and make group. And let's see if we need the end of the information tray. Oh, I know, the trays are hidden over here. Drag that down. Okay. Okay, we got lucky. Solid group. So now we're going to make a little arm that spins around with this guy hanging from it. And see, the fact that we made this a solid means that anything we draw here is not going to get stuck to it. Because if we get stuck to it, and then you try to make the whole thing a solid, quite often it won't work, and quite often you just have to start over again. Sometimes I can rescue you, sometimes I can't. But it's kind of tough when you haven't made things solid along the way. It's kind of tough to rescue you sometimes. Not that I'm not willing to try. Okay, so we need a lever here. I mean, well, a big arm sticking out. And I think I'm going to draw a circle. And sometimes when you won't find the center for you, you need to pause. You're still not finding it. Okay, another thing you want to try when that's happening is to make it big. Okay, and pause a little bit longer. Sometimes that helps. All right, we have to resort to another method. And that is to get the line tool and draw a line to where it looks like it's kind of dividing the thing in half. And better if we're looking down on top, because I didn't quite make it this time. I'll erase that. I'll attempt to erase it, okay? And we'll go from here over here. Now luckily this is a polygon and it has these points on it. So that makes it kind of easy for it to divide the thing in half. And the acid test is to get the circle tool and go to the midpoint of the line and then drag that out. And if it matches up with the existing circle, then you know that you found the center. So I wanted to make a circle, so I'll just go ahead and click there. We don't need the line. And now I'm going to well, let's see. I think what I need to do is have a line right here that divides the circle in half. That way, for the lever that I'm making, I can drag it out like this. Now notice this line is violet, purple, whatever you want to call it. That means that it's perpendicular to this line here. Also, if you're drawing something that's parallel to that line, well, here it's making it blue because it's along the blue axis, but it will also make a violet line if it's parallel. And I'm just going to go out here a ways. And I'll go back over here to tell the inference engine, as they're calling it, but I want to draw a line to that point right there. And notice I've got another violet line, which means it's perpendicular to that line I just drew. And it's saying, well, maybe you might want to draw a diagonal line over to the point where it started, but no. And I'm running out of room over here, so I get the orbit tool. And in the earlier versions of AutoCAD, you switch to some other tool, it doesn't remember where you were. So I imagine present versions of AutoCAD are better about that. Well, so much for the inference engine. It doesn't seem to cooperate. So, perpendicular line. Now, it's always surprising how you think that you've drawn everything in the same plane and you use the orbit tool and you find out it's this goofy looking thing. But we lucked out this time. So, line tool. We'll start over here. Well, sometimes you have to do a workaround. You know, I mean, the inference engine should have told us where we needed to start drawing the line back to where we came from, but it didn't. I guess it's angry with me or something. Didn't want to do it for the circle. Didn't want to do it for this. Okay, let's see if this is going to look about right. Now, we don't want this to hit the platform. We borrow someone's platform. See, it's going to be sitting on here. And, well, the dome is going to be here. So we don't want to have that arm on the top hitting the dome or this thing or whatever. That platform is 3 inches square. I'm going to take the tape measure tool and we'll measure here. Okay, that's 7 inches. Okay, that's pretty long. So we don't want it that long. So I'm going to, with the tape measure tool, you can measure out a distance or something and click, and it'll leave a little cross there. And I'm going to make this 3 inches. I've just dragged it out here. I'm going to type 3 and then press enter. And there's a little blip right there. So I can draw a line across there. And again, the violet line means it's perpendicular, even though it didn't really look perpendicular. But when we're drawing in, okay, it isn't parallel to that line there, but it looks okay, so what the heck. Oh, I know, this was not a green line. If this had been a green line, then everything would have worked out a little better, but this looks like it's okay. So I'll erase the lines we don't need here. And this looks a little hokey. We don't need this big thick thing out here, so I'm going to make a kind of a triangular thing. So I'm just kind of giving you general ideas, just having you watch me and maybe understand some things that you didn't understand before, maybe. Okay, so I'm going to get the center point here, and I'm going to draw a little line out here, just so that I can then find the center point of this little line over here. You see, I found the midpoint of this long line, and then I drew this line out here, which I'm going to erase. And see, now there's a midpoint on that little short line and a midpoint on that little short line. And I'm going to go from there over to here, and we'll find that midpoint over to here. So I'm trying to make the thing so it doesn't look too horrible. And then I'll erase the lines we don't need. And we'll pull that guy up about, whoops, okay, something went wrong there. That's because we got this line here. Oops, that didn't work very well either. Okay, I'm going to click with the select tool. I see it's remembering that I had a line down the center at some point. So that's going to make me. I'm gonna hide this thing here. It keeps on wanting to select this thing. Right click and then hide. And that tells me what belongs to the thing we're drawing versus the thing that belongs to that kind of cone-shaped thing. And who knows, you might get a job someday designing carnival rides. The ability to 3D model things is becoming part of most jobs. I think surgeons sometimes might use that, or at least that they're using 3D printed models of what the surgeon's going to be operating on to help the surgeon visualize what they're doing. And architects, it used to be that they would draw things in 3-view drawings, you know, front view, side view, top view. But I think more and more they're working with 3D modeling. And then they can get the front view, the side view, the top view if they need that. So it's a good skill to have, and it's such good things for your brain. Okay, push-pull tool. We'll raise that up 1/8 of an inch. And then we'll do an unhide. Edit, edit, unhide, all. And we got something kind of weird down here in the bottom. That must have been something I was doing up front. I'm going to get rid of that. Okay, now, what's the rule? Make it a solid before you do anything else. And you don't know if you're successful, so you go over here and see that it says solid, and it doesn't. So we'll go to the solid inspector squared, which tries to fix things. It says there's a stray edge. Usually that's pretty easy for it to fix. Okay. All right. It's a solid. Well, I was glad when I discovered this solid inspector squared. But when I first started learning SketchUp a couple of years ago, there was just a plain solid inspector, and it would tell you where the errors were. But you had to fix the errors. And then solid inspector squared came along, made by the same guy. And boy, it's a handy tool. Sometimes it doesn't work, but it's worth a try. And I think it would be fun to have this guy hanging from a little arm that comes out here at an angle. In fact, we can cheat a little bit and make it look like the guy is out at an angle. So I guess it's time to work with the little guy. And let's get him. I'm just going to tilt him or her, we don't really know. Doesn't have any hair, we can't tell. Anyway, dumb jokes. Okay, so I'm going to rotate this guy. He's got the rotate tool, which is over here. And I'm going to pivot on his feet here. And I want to pivot around the green axis. I want it's like we have a little axle going through his feet here, and we want that to be parallel to the green axis. So I got a green protractor there. I just need to go along here a little ways, doesn't really matter too much. And except I didn't select the guy first. Okay, escape. I'll do what I should have done. Then I get the rotate tool and green protractor, and we'll pivot him up like this. And yeah, that looks like a pretty good angle for him to be spinning around on this thing. Now, of course, she's angling the wrong way. So I'm going to get the pointer tool, select tool, and do a right click, and do flip along. And I'm going to adjust the blue axis. Okay, that didn't really do what I wanted. Okay, I'll try flipping along the right axis. I have a hunch that the flip didn't work. Well, that didn't work too well. Not having the thing upside down, now that might be pretty cool, actually. Looks like I'm going to have to rotate him some more. Well, actually, we need to rotate it the other way. So I want to rotate around the blue axis. And basically, we need a line that's horizontal. There isn't any line that's horizontal on the little guy. So I'm going to get the line tool and draw a line that's parallel to the red axis. And now when I go with the rotate tool, actually I want a blue protractor. So click there, click here, and rotate the guy 180 degrees. And now it looks more like what we would expect with him swinging around in that thing. And I'm going to move the guy. Okay, we got this thing at a little bit different angle here too. See, when you work with angles, things become a little bit more difficult. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a line from the center here. Well, it's perpendicular to this line right here. It doesn't want to give me the center of the circle again, but I'll just give myself a line like, oh, wait a minute, I want to, actually we do want the center, it actually found it for me this time. Okay, then I'm going to get the rotate tool. Oh, so I'm going to do one more thing. I know this is a little confusing because it's like I'm your boss and you're my employees, and I'm saying, oh, hey, I want you to do something like this. Hey, watch me, you know. And unfortunately, some of the guys working under me when I was an engineer, I had to put up with that kind of thing. Anyway, so we get the, I drew a line here that was on the red axis, parallel to the red axis, and we'll get the protractor up here, and we'll rotate the wrong thing. Okay. I didn't get much sleep last night. I was making aprons for you guys so you don't get paint on your pants. Took longer than I thought. And a bunch of other things. All kinds of excuses. If that doesn't work, I'll find another place. Okay, so you got to select the thing you want to rotate. And we'll get this line up here, and we're going to move it down so that it's smack on that line. Now, this is going to be the right angle to make something for this little guy to hang from on here. Now, I know you're not going to remember all these steps. What I'm just trying to do is give you some ideas and give you some techniques, and then you can kind of let your creative juices flow and do your own cool thing. So I think we'll have a little thing that hangs from here, and I think we'll glue it onto here. That's going to be the best bet, I think. So I'm going to make a little thing to glue with out here. I think I'm making this kind of more complicated than it needs to be, but anyway. Okay, I'll use the push-pull tool on that and make it, now notice the push-pull tool isn't working. That's because this is not a, it's not shaded in, it's not a complete thing. I need to draw a line, here, and it's still not doing anything. Well, the push-pull tool sees that it's a face. So, down about 1/8 of an inch. And I'm going to make it a solid. If you do end up working with Sketchup a lot, well, you've already been working with it quite a bit, but it takes a while to really know when you can get away with not making something solid. The safest thing to do is to make it a solid right off the bat as you're making things. Okay, we want a little thing for this guy to hang from. I'm going to move this guy up to here. So let's select it first. And we'll move the corner of his head right there. It's not wanting to stick. And when that happens, sometimes going to the X-ray tool is something that works. Okay, it worked this time. And X-ray tool is awfully confusing to work in that mode. So I'm going to move this little guy over so he's centered a little bit better. Just eyeballing it. Then moving along the green axis. That way I'm not going to change the vertical position of this guy or anything. Okay, that looks like it worked out pretty well. So this is going to be something you can chip away at for the rest of the class. And you see, if you're working as an engineer or a technician, quite often you just have to tough it out and try to find a way of doing what you want to do. And you won't have anyone telling you how to do it. And so you just have to kind of experiment and learn on your own. No, I don't think, well, let's see what the push-pull does on this. Push-pull tool. it's going to, oh, okay, it actually did what I was hoping it would do. It, instead of being parallel to the green or red axes, it made itself reference to the plane that was already established there. Okay, 1/8 of an inch. And we want this all to be one solid here. And I just realized that if we did what I was thinking of here, that when we go to 3D printer, we're going to have to use dissolvable plastic and supports. So I'm going to modify this to make it a little bit more 3D printer friendly. I'm going to push pull this out to, so it's all the way to the edge there. And we'll do the same thing on the other one. Push pull to. Now, if we printed it like this with this gap in here, it would be pretty weak. So I'm going to push pull the this surface here on the top. I'm going to push pull that so it goes into the other one. Now you see, we'll be able to lay this thing on its side and print it that way. So that'll print a lot easier. So okay, I'm going to make this. I'm going to use the outer shell tool on this guy here just to show you that it is going to work. Except the outer shell tool won't be happy with this here because it's not a solid. So that'll make this a solid first. Okay, now I'm going to select both things. I held down the shift key just then. And I'm almost finished. Just hang in there a little bit longer. And a right click. I thought it was going to give the outer shell there, but nope. I'll go through the tools, outer shell. And let's see. Okay, oops. It's not a solid. It's just a group. So solid inspector squared. Ooh, this. Oh, I got this guy too. We didn't want that guy in this part of the mix. Okay, we'll try the outer shell again. Let's see. Now that looks a little better. We don't have those funny lines there. All right, we're in good shape. Now somehow you'll need to, well, I guess you won't need to fasten this to the platform. It has a big enough base where it'll stand upright on its own. But you will want to have a little hole in here. Well, actually, you could just glue this thing to the top of that cone, glue this here, and just rotate the whole cone when you want to make this guy spin around. So I don't think we'll need to use any screws. So that should be pretty cool to have him spinning around there. But you could have multiple guys hanging on this thing all going around. I've printed up a much more little men, and so you can just take some of those that are already printed. Okay, so I'll stop.